Hello and welcome. This is Lunch and Learn, and we're doing a different program this time. Unfortunately, we cannot meet in person, but we decided to go ahead and do the seminar because we understand that there is a lot of need right now. We're going through a pandemic. We've never done that before, and it's very stressful. So we decided that it was time to redo our stress program so you can acquire some tools that will help you navigate through these difficult times. We're going to have 8 sessions. Today is the first one, and in each session we will give you some tools, some strategies that will help you conquer the fears and conquer the stress. Today we're going to talk about our stress mindset, meaning the way we have been taught to think about stress. We develop our way of thinking about stress watching our parents, watching our family, uncles, aunts, grandparents, or even our teachers also, and all our friends as we grow up. And so we develop our own way of thinking on what is stress and is it bad for me? And so because of all the things that we hear on the media, we conclude that yes, stress is bad for me. And that's what I thought for many, many years. But science is changing my mind. And that's what I want to talk to you today. The possibility that maybe there's a side of stress that it had not been looked at before. So a study was done. It was more like a survey back in 1998, and they questioned about 30,000 adults, and they asked if they had experienced stress for the year, and if they had, whether they thought that the stress was good or bad for them. 10 years went by, and the researchers went back and looked at the group of the population that they had questioned before, and they discovered something very interesting, that if you had stress in your life and you thought stress was bad for you, harmful for you, you had a risk increase of dying by a 43%. That is a very high increase. But they also saw that the people that also went through stressful situations, but they didn't think that stress was harmful for their health, they had lower risk of dying even than the people that had no reported stress. That is significant because that's what we've been taught all along, that stress is bad for us. So what is this telling us? That what I believe about stress could harm me or help me? Apparently, if I have bad views about stress, then I have a higher risk to harm my health. I have to have more problems, less productivity at work, and then I have a challenge with learning, and these effects could be negative in my life. But if the opposite is true, that I don't believe that stress is harmful for my health, then I will grow, I will do better at work, my health will be better, and that's a complete different perspective than what we've been taught all along. So the traditional stress response, that what we've been taught, is that we get 2 main hormones, the cortisol and the adrenaline. And so we know now that there's a lot more hormones that come into play when there's a stress response happening in our system. What happens is that when the alarm gets ring in our brain, the system releases all sort of hormones that help our body and triggers the sympathetic system. What is this sympathetic system? It's our traditional stress response that comes from our nervous system. The sympathetic system is responsible for elevating our blood pressure, our heart rate, our breathing, stops our digestions, brings more circulation to our muscles, makes our pupils dilate so I can see better. And so this way, I can also hear better. And so what happens, I am ready to jump, to run, to get out of trouble. Don't get me wrong. We need this sympathetic system. We need this stress system. Why? Because when a car is coming our way, I can jump out of the way. If a dog is running towards me, I can get inside my house. So I need this to be automatic and to be fast so I can get out of trouble, right? So it's very good in that regards. But what is not good, if with my thoughts, I triggered it consistently when I'm afraid of things. For example, right now we're all afraid of COVID-19, coronavirus, this pandemic. We never experienced this before. And so fear comes to play. And when fear comes, our sympathetic system gets triggered. Our stress response gets triggered. Our brain does not know how to identify from something that is real and not real. And it thinks that I'm in danger right now, even though I am thinking on what could happen. May I get sick? What if I get sick? And so since our brain doesn't know what is real and what's not real, me thinking about it, it thinks it's happening, and so it triggers the sympathetic system. And so I get all these things happening. And the problem is that in the short time, it's a good response because I get the energy that I need to get out of the way of the dog or out of the way of the car. But in the long term, that's when it can impair my immune system. And so I'm in higher risk of having a heart attack or falling into depression. And that's what I want to prevent. So how can I trigger more of these protective hormones that science is now discovering that they have a protective effect in my body? So we're going to talk about two hormones today, the DHEA and the oxytocin. How can I help my body enhance these hormones in my system when I'm going through difficulties? So first, let's see what they do. The DHEA hormone in the short term helps me grow and helps get my brain stronger, and it helps counter the effects of the cortisol. So those are the effects that I want. I want to bring down the cortisol. But in the long term, it helps me also reduce anxiety, depression, and heart disease. So I want it in the short term, and I also want it in the long term. Also, we can think about this hormone, the DHEA hormone. You can think of it as a vaccination against stress. This is what I mean. When the kids are little, here in Los Angeles, what they do is they give them training for earthquake. And sometimes a bus comes in and it has a room set up with little chairs and tables, and the bus starts shaking and the kids think the room is shaking, and so it's a pretend earthquake. And so what happens is they learn what to do during stressful situation, which is an earthquake. And so when the reason we do this is because we want to inoculate them that when the stressful event of an earthquake, a big one comes, they know what to do. And so that's what this hormone does. It makes your brain more plastic so we can learn more things. So we start looking at stress as an opportunity to grow, to learn new things. And so that's why we become more confident and we have more attention and we can learn more things and our performance increases. So we do better when we go through challenging circumstances. But not only that, when we see stress as a challenge, that I can learn something from this, that I'm here to learn, then we can increase the ratio of the DHEA hormone, and then the cortisol hormone will be lower. And that's what I want. And that I will get that by changing the way I think and by changing the way I look at things. With the oxytocin, we call this the love hormone. Why? Because it releases when we hug people, when we nurse babies, and during sex also. That's why it's been coined the hormone of love. And so, but one of the most fascinating things that the oxytocin does is that when we go through stress and the cortisol causes damages in our microcirculation in our heart, that there's receptors in these tiny little vessels that are there for oxytocin. And these receptors are there waiting for the hormone to come in. And when the hormone comes and goes into the receptor area, starts the healing process. And so that's why oxytocin is a healing hormone during stress. Also, another good effect of oxytocin during stressful circumstances is when we go through a challenging event, people will suddenly become a hero. They suddenly become brave. That's why you hear all these stories about how the police officer jumped into the water and dove in and rescued somebody and saved them. Or when a teacher, that there was a bad situation at school and she put herself in front of all the students, and the mom that saved all her kids. We all become brave, and this is the hormone that is responsible, that increases our courage. So we decide by the way we think which ratio of hormones we're gonna get triggering in our bloodstream. There's one more study that was done, and I love this study because this is something that we all do. This study was done in 1961, but it was reported in 2014. And it was a study in two types of stress, in main events and in daily hassles. And so what do I mean by daily hassles? It's all your daily responsibilities, your duties that you have to do at work and at home that you do not like. Things that you see as a hassle. It's like if you have to drive your mom to the doctor, or if you have to drive your kids to practice, or if you have to do things at work that you dislike completely. You hate cooking, but you have to cook for your family. All the things that we don't like doing, but we have to do anyway. So we see them as hassles. So when people had to report on this, they discovered that people that have high reporting on hassles, they have 3 times higher risk of dying. And that's a lot, because we have to do our duties anyway. We have to do our responsibilities anyway. But if we go through them, through life, doing them with that hassle mentality, we are harming ourselves. We are triggering the fight or flight response. And that way we're harming ourselves, because we're increasing the adrenaline, we're increasing the cortisol, we're triggering the sympathetic system, and we are harming our body, our mind. So if we feel this is a burden, then we are going to be harming ourselves. But if we change our perspective, we start looking at things from a completely different point of view, then we might change that mindset, and we can start looking at these daily hassles as just daily activities that you have, and you can take them as opportunities to grow, opportunities to connect, opportunities to improve things, instead of looking at them as hassles, like the way we've been viewing them all along. So how are we gonna do all these things? It's difficult to change. I know. I've been trying to change, and I know that it's not something that I can do from one day to the next. It's been taking me years, and slowly I've been changing my mindset. Slowly I've been changing the way I think about things. Slowly I've been changing the way I think about stress. But I do admit that we cannot change it from one day to the next. But we can start. And for some of you, you're going to be able to do a big transformation from one day to the next. But for others, it's going to be a slow transformation. And it doesn't matter whether it's slow or fast, as long as you keep improving and getting better at the way you think about stress. That's all it counts. So we're going to discuss a few strategies for today. It's like change your stress mindset. What do I mean about that? When we think about our things that we have to do at home or at work as hassles, then, or this is too much, we're missing an opportunity. Like maybe you had to stay a little longer at work because there's something new that you had to learn, but somebody else had to stay too, and the person that had to train you also had to stay. So instead of looking like, the miserable three of us, we have to stay and do something that we don't want to do, you can see it as an opportunity to connect with them and become friends and get to know each other better. There's a lot of benefit on getting to know people better. So instead of looking at it as a big hustle, you can see as an opportunity to connect with somebody that you hadn't had an opportunity to connect before. Also, when you have to drive your kids. I remember when I had to drive my oldest daughter, Carolina, to college the first year. She was only an hour away, and I enjoyed my drive so much because we would talk the whole way there. And our relationship started shifting from mom-daughter relationship to more like a friendship relationship. So we had an opportunity to connect at a different level. And I wouldn't have that if I would have been thinking, I have to drive her all the way. This is such a hassle. I will be upset about it. And we would not have that beautiful opportunity. So viewing it as an opportunity to connect, it helped our relationship, it improved it. And so that's what we can do. The second thing that we can do is how thinking about stress makes you feel. Observe yourself when you're going through a challenging thing. What are you feeling? Are you feeling upset? Are you feeling angry? And learn how different circumstances make you feel. And so when you change your outlook towards those circumstances, see if that starts shifting the way you feel about them. Because you have to think about something, then you start feeling the sensations that come with that thought. And so it's important that you pay attention to, okay, I'm stressed, what am I feeling? Am I tense? Am I grouchy? Am I short with my family? So when you start seeing these things, then you can think back, why am I being so short? Why am I being so tense? And you can see all these body sensations, how it connects to the way you're thinking about stress. That way, you are going to be choosing a different stress response. You can choose the traditional stress response, whether it's a fight or flight response that you trigger the cortisol and the adrenaline, or if you choose a learning response, or if you choose a connecting response. And then that way you will increase the oxytocin and you can increase the DHEA hormone that will bring you more healing and it helps you restore your health. It seems like if we view stress as an opportunity to improve, then we're going to have more skills, increase our knowledge, and increase our strength. And that's what we all want. We want to be healthier, mostly during times like this, when we're going through difficulties. So the second strategy is how to calm our body. Remember, the stress response makes you ready to jump. All the increases in blood pressure and circulations, our body gets tense and ready for action. But we don't always need that action. Sometimes we just need to focus. And so we need to retrain our body into how to respond. That's why we were talking about watch your body, watch how you feel, so you can retrain it. So before we can retrain it, we need to teach it to calm down. And how do we do this? Okay, if you're at work and they brought you, well, now with coronavirus, if you're at home working, if they give you more work that you can handle and you're stressed out, one of the strategies that you could do is that you could put a ring in your phone about every hour or every 2 hours, depending on you. And when it rings, it could message you. So you can stop what you're doing and you can stretch and yawn for 3 times. But it has to be a big, long yawn. I know you don't feel like it, but when you're doing that, you're resetting your mind computer. You're bringing more oxygen into your brain, more circulation. You're stretching your muscles. You're making all that blood come out of your muscles and go through your whole body, reoxygenating your whole body. So just by simply stretching, moving around the area that you're working, and yawning 3 times, you are resetting your mind. So now for the body, many of us have different sensations when we're stressed. For me, the shoulders get tight, the neck gets tight too. So when my shoulders and my neck are super tight, then I know I've been ignoring it. I've been not paying attention to my body's sensations. And that's not good, because then by the end of the day, then your neck's super tight and your shoulders are super tight. That's what you show as stress. That's how I show stress. My neck gets tight, and my shoulders get tight. And so, but if throughout the day, I do things to reduce that tightness, then by the end of the day, I'm not bad. I could be in a good standing with the tightness of my neck. So what we're gonna learn today is about the diaphragmatic breathing. Remember when I told you that we had an automatic system and that we can only do these automatically? It's an autonomous system. So what it is that when the sympathetic system gets triggered, I cannot wheel it off. I cannot say, okay, calm down now. But it has been discovered that if I do the diaphragmatic breathing, this triggers the parasympathetic system that in time then slows down the sympathetic system. So that's what I want to do. I do the diaphragmatic breathing, slows my sympathetic system down, increases my parasympathetic system. That is like you go into your brain with a fire hose and you put foam in this fire that you have there, because there's so many things that you have to do and you're all stressed out. But then you go there and you put all that white foam and then you calm everything down. No fire, everything is calm, everything is cool. That's what we do when we do this diaphragmatic breathing. And what it is that you inhale air and you count to 4. And then when the air comes out, you count to 6. And you do these at different counts so you don't get dizzy. In a different video, I will do a demonstration in how to do the breathing. So right now, I'm just gonna tell you that you breathe in 4 and you count slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get the air out and you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you don't have that much lung capacity, then cut it a little bit, but always do one shorter than the other one. And I will show you in the video how to practice it. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I learned it when I was in school, when I was taking voice lessons, and it was not hard, and it was very difficult. It took me a while to learn it, but all you have to do is practice, practice, practice. And the best way to practice this way of breathing is laying down, because that way you can put one hand in your tummy and another one in your chest, and you want the hand in your tummy to go up and down when you inhale, and then you want the hand to go down when you get the air out. So in, and the hand goes up, and out, and the hand goes down. So if you're moving more the chest hand, that means you're not doing it correctly. Okay, you can also practice this in front of the mirror, and that way you see where the air is going, because the goal is that your lungs inflate so much that they make the diaphragm go down, and when that happens, it pushes the organs forward, and so it seems like the air is going into your abdomen, but in reality is that your diaphragm is going down and is pushing the organs forward, and so more air is going into your lungs in multi-dimensional, back and front, sideways, and up and down, so your lungs are growing. And every time you're going to be able to increase the capacity of your lungs, so that's an extra plus. And the last strategy for today, it will be exercise. And why? Because remember, when we get the traditional stress response, we increase the adrenaline and cortisol, and these hormones, they dump a lot of energy through glucose in our whole system. And also we get ready to do something. So if you don't go for a walk or do some kind of exercise, you're gonna have that energy, and when you're gonna try to go to sleep, you're not gonna be able to fall asleep because you have all that pent up energy that you acquired throughout the very stressful day. So what you could do is that you can go for a walk or exercise any way you like, so you release that energy into the floor as you walk. You lower your adrenaline, you lower your cortisol, and that way you are able to relax your body and calm your body down. So I know when we come back from work or when we're working all day at home, we're tired, and the last thing you want to do is exercise or go for a walk. But trust me when I tell you that it's going to be hard to start, but once you do it after 10 minutes, you're going to feel so good that you're just going to keep walking. But the key is to start. Once you start walking, you can keep going, but the first 2, 3, 5 minutes is like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to do it. But once you keep going and then more oxygen comes in, you start feeling better, the stress hormones start going down, and then you start getting rid of all that extra pent up energy that you have, you're gonna feel so much better. In Romans 12:2, God has a will for us. He tells us that He wants us to be able to transform and renew our minds. He knows it's difficult and He knows it's a challenge, but He knows that's the will I have for you. He's saying we can do it. We can transform our minds. So hopefully I'll see you again next week for the second session on how to manage our stress.